I'm Davy Bolt.
I'm Richie Mackay.
And you are listening to the Wrong Bias Bulls podcast. On today's show, we have Ian Riches, who is the General Manager of South Shields Indoor Bowling Club, talking bowls on and off the green.
In the Vipers? What's all that about?
Right then, Mr. Mackay, so this is our first show, so I don't know if you want to explain to those who are listening why we've decided to do this.
Well, they would have thought it, mate. Me and you sitting here talking a load of old bowls. The reason for the podcast, it's something I've always fancied doing but haven't had the inclination to do it. I feel that if football can have a podcast, cricket can have a podcast, why can't bowls have a podcast? And I just needed somebody to say, right, Howie, I'll come on board with you. And you were good enough to come on board because everybody knows Davy Bolt. But hopefully people will enjoy it, get the information out there, get interviews and what have you.
Well, just to give those out there who may or may not know you, I know certainly everybody around the northern counties probably know you really well, Richie, just to give everybody an understanding of what you do. Richie's instrumental in providing bowls updates all around the county on behalf of Durham County, the northern counties and locally in Sunderland. He's done it for many years and provides an absolutely outstanding the service you provide. You do it in your own time. It's for your love of bowls, and it's very rare, especially outdoors during the county season. If there's finals happening, it's very rare we don't see you there. And you get a lot of thanks via the Facebook page and website for the service you do provide and the stories that you provide for the local Sunderland Echo and for the website. So yeah, it's much appreciated, and from my point of view I just thought this was a great opportunity. I don't know if it's been done before. I certainly don't think there's anything like this at the moment. And I do think there's an audience out there. There's a lot of people who tune in to watch bowls on Facebook, if it's coming from wherever, the WBT or Australia. So people are interested. People wouldn't turn up to watch bowls matches if they weren't.
No.
So I'm sure this is an opportunity for us to just give people around the country and potentially around the world, as a few people have tuned in with regards to the Facebook page, and just let them know what's happening on a weekly basis in the bowls world.
Yep, quite agree, mate. Quite agree. Hopefully people will enjoy it. If they don't enjoy it, they just switch off.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? If you think it's just going to be boring old bowls, well, but no, we'll try to keep it upbeat and hope everybody enjoys it.
What we will be doing on the podcasts, we do plan to run every fortnight, so these will be going out every Friday, but I do believe we're going to do one for next week, I believe, just to have the two intro podcasts, just to keep people up to tune with what we're doing, and literally to give an understanding what, part of the podcast is going to be having a regular guest on the show. We're going to be giving regular updates with regards to the national competitions, worldwide competitions, local competitions. If there's any clubs who want to contact us, either by the Twitter page, which we'll give the details out later on, the Facebook page, or comments, via our email address, which is wrong.bias@hotmail.com. Please feel free to contact us. We will try to do our best to put as much on as what we can. And part of the podcast as well, we will be running a competition. We've got to say huge thanks to Alex Marshall Sports, who has basically, I spoke to Alex and he's completely on board with this type of thing. I've been lucky enough to work with Alex recently over the last couple of months, and Alex really wants to push this sport in the direction of where Australia are taking it, and he regularly visits over there, and he sees a huge opportunity here for this podcast, and he's been great to support it, and we'll be providing prizes for each one. And we do have one of those for our first podcast today as well, so we'll give you details of that later on. And on today's show, we've got Ian Riches, who is the General Manager of South Shields Indoor Bowling Club, and we've invited him along here today just to tell us all about the club on and off the green. And obviously South Shields have now named themselves the Vipers, so we're quite intrigued to find out what that's all about. Welcome to the show, Ian. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thanks very much for inviting us for the first podcast.
So Ian, tell us, how long have you been not so much manager of the club, or give us a bit of a roundup really of how you came to the club, what you've done since you've been here, and how you ended up being general manager?
I've been a member of the club for about 14 years, I think it is. For the last 5 years ago, I think I took on the role of secretary. And myself and a few others had a vision that we wanted to take the club forward from where it was. So I spoke to a few people, tried to get them involved. Some got involved, some didn't get involved. And then, as I say, that was 5 years ago. And we've gone from a pretty weak position, I would say, financially 5 years ago, to a very healthy position now.
So you must be pretty proud of, obviously, looking at where you are today to where you were, because, you know, most people won't know, but it's no secret of the fact that the club were in a pretty dire situation when you did take over the club. So it must be nice to see where you are now and see how far the club's actually come.
Yeah, it is. Financially, obviously, that's great. You do have a lot of things that people don't realise that you're involved with when you're running the place. We're currently looking at things like the roof and guttering on the building, which is going to cost a substantial amount of money to have repaired. So we do a lot of things that most members won't even know we're looking at. On the playing side, we've gone from being a very average team, I would say, when I first started. We did have some good players then, but not enough good players to be able to compete at what I would say is a high level. And obviously over the last 5 years, we've built up a really strong squad of players, both men and women. So much so that obviously we won the Denny Plate 2 years ago, and we did really well in all the games leading up to that. And then we had the Denny Cup final last year, which was, as you know, was absolutely fantastic experience. We didn't actually lose the final, we drew the final, and then we lost it on an extra end. So we've gone from being average to having a really good squad of players.
Yeah, being part of that situation, being part of the whole build up over the last few years, I think people are sort of across the country now understand that we've sort of done things very differently. We had a discussion a few years ago. What can we do to stand out from the crowd, pretty much, so that we're taking the club forward, and we came out with those red and yellow shirts that went down a storm with everybody at first, as we both. The red trousers we thought about going for as well, but the general response was that we'd look like a bit of a post box, I think.
We're on the other side. From me not being a member of your club, it was good to see you do it, to take a chance to go from the traditional grey and white, boring, to go coloured. And I think other clubs were probably envious, jealous maybe. Steve, would that be too?
I think it's probably a good comment, and I do think there are some people out there that are like that, but you get that in anything, don't you, where you've got a little bit of success.
We did take a bit of a big chance, actually, didn't we? Because we knew we would get backlash for it. We knew people would say, "What is that top all about?" And we did. I mean, we're walking into clubs and you hear people turning around and just silly little comments really about, "God, have we got our sunglasses with us to watch this game?" and things like that. But on the positive side from us, we took that chance because our way of looking at it and thinking was, I'd far rather they were talking about South Shields Indoor Bowling Club than not. And
exactly.
The best part about it was those who thought they were actually putting us down were actually giving us the ammo to actually push on and go further.
Yeah. I always remember when we turned up in Nottingham for the final of the Plate, and one of the lads came out and said, "Jesus, you mean business, don't you?" Everywhere we went, I think everybody made a comment on the shirts, didn't they? Yeah. And most of the time, people were quite good about it. And what I would say is that we never lost a game in 2 years wearing those shirts.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
it was an extra end in the Denny Cup as the only game we've lost in that Denny Cup format over the last couple of years. But it was no secret of the fact that even our own club members, there was 2 or 3 of our own club members. The first day I took them out of the bag, they went, "You are having a laugh, aren't you? We're not wearing them." Yeah. But then, as we said, let's just wait 2 or 3 months down the line. I bet you they're coming up and saying, "Can we have a shirt? Can we have a shirt?"
I've actually bought them.
And it was a massive. I think it was a massive culture shock. Even I looked at first, and it looked slightly different to the design that we'd first gone for. It was, the circles that were on them were quite prominent, so it didn't look like the blended effect that it had on the shirt. But then the difference was when the team was actually on the green. Yeah. And you were looking from the back of the green and looking at this team we just stood out and just looked, in my opinion, looked great. And I was commenting yesterday when the women were playing the Yetton game. They wore their tops because some of the women haven't got the new tops that we'll move on to in a second. But again, I says, I still think those tops look really good on the green.
No, they do. When you looked at the ladies yesterday, it did look really good when you see them all playing together on the green.
So would you say you've still, because with anything, change is a dirty word in life generally. So would you say you've still got a few members that sort of like stuck in the ways?
We have, but I think they're a lot more open to us doing different things now than there were 5 years ago, for example. You still get the odd, I wouldn't wear that shirt, and they'll wear a white shirt. The vets, probably 95% of the vets want to wear a shirt, 5% don't. So because 5% don't, they're not wearing the shirt. So it's a matter of changing people's minds, but sometimes when they're very set in the ways, I think it's very difficult to do.
Yeah. And that's sort of I think epidemic's the right word to use across the country, because obviously the development job that I do, that is the one crux of every single club you go into, with the same words you always hear is, but that's the way we've always done it. But the way we've always done it is seeing the sport not progressing the way we want the sport to progress.
Exactly.
And this leads on perfectly to what what we were taught and what we introduced you with regards to the Vipers' thoughts. Obviously, I know about it. We talked about it, but from your own point of view, do you want to just give an understanding as to why we decided to go along with something called the South Shields Vipers rather than just your bog standard South Shields Indoor Bowling Club?
I think again there was some mixed feelings about it when we discussed it last year. Within the club, but the majority of people again were happy to go with it, and everybody had a choice and an opinion on it. The idea really is kind of linked with the orange shirts, that what we wanted to do was attract younger people to the sport and to the club, and the Vipers changing to the Vipers, with a bit of support from the EBA as well. We've gone with it, and I think the shirts are absolutely fantastic. And the comments I got yesterday from the away team, said the shirts were fantastic.
Did they? I didn't hear that. Yeah.
No, I think they look great. I think the new shirts look tremendous. I must admit, when I first seen them, I thought of the PDC darts, but I think they look tremendous. Absolutely tremendous.
We have to move the club forward, and to move the sport forward, you're not going to get young people coming in, wearing a white shirt, a great pair of pants.
Right, yeah.
That's never going to happen.
You've just hit the nail on the head, Richie, and you've just sort of said the words is exactly how we are trying to look at this, which is the PDC. Look at the BDO 10 years ago. They were stale. It was the same old. It was a complete sort of amateurish organisation where, the darts players, you look at darts players now today, and we're not saying that, it would be nice to think that in 5-10 years time there was a PDC style of bowls, and I'm sure there's a lot of people talked about it in the past, and, we are trying to do different things. But I think you have got to use that PDC model, because somebody takes something which was literally a pub sport where they're sitting chucking some darts, and now you're playing in front of 4,000 people in an arena. So from my point of view, all sort of what you would class as the smaller sports need to look at that blueprint and say, how do we take the next step to get to that level? And it is a small thing, and it's nice to hear that the away team we were playing against yesterday actually made them comments, because they were one of the first ones who criticised the red and yellow. So it just shows how people's opinions potentially change over a period of time. And like we've said about our own club members, hopefully they are now starting to understand that we're not just doing this as a whim, and it's not just something we're just looking out of the air. There's a long-term sort of strategy to try and move it forward. And we are, hopefully, we'll always be known as the first club in the country that is branded and become something different than just the bog standard bowls club. And I'd be gobsmacked. I really would be gobsmacked if you don't see another 5 or 10 clubs follow us over the next season or two. Peter Thompson at the AIBA was really, really supportive of what we did, and I think because he is very much looks at the future as well, and he sees that's possibly the way we've got to go, and I think it is. So it's it has been a really, really positive thing for the club, I think.
So was it kind of based on an Australian model? Because I know the Australians all have these names, or did you sort of take it from there, or?
I think, Dave was out there obviously in the Commonwealth Games, and I think you saw a lot of stuff out there that you thought we could bring back to the game here, and that was one of the things, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, their outdoor clubs are sort of, I wouldn't say they're better than, well, yeah, potentially a lot of them are better than, but our indoor clubs, sort of match them with regards to the facilities and the stadium that we have, etc. But just, it's simple things. It's like walking. Broadbeach Bulls was where the Broadbeach Bowling Club, who were known as the Bulls, was where the Commonwealth Games was being held. And as soon as you walk through the doors, there's like a life-size bronze bull as you're walking in, and then you walk past the club shop that is selling the club shirts and club hats and caps, and it's just you walk into it, and it's the equivalent of us walking into our local Premier League, League One, whatever football club, and walking past the club shop, and that's how they treat balls out there. So again, I've always sort of tried to push, especially talking with Ian and a lot of the lads. It's like we are miles behind, and we've got to try and catch up in some respects. And like I say, it's only a small step, but it's hopefully one in the right direction.
Side. Yeah. You've obviously touched it a little bit. I compare you at the minute to the Cumbria, the lads like Steve Farish, Steve Hurt, Stuart Airy, that era.
Yeah.
And I think you've got the youth on your side, you've got the spirit there. Can you see yourselves doing a Cumbria and go on and dominate a little bit? First of all, get your second national title under your belts.
Yeah, I'd like to think so, and that's the ambition of everybody in the squad. We've got, I don't know what everybody's impression is of what we are as a squad of players, but I can tell you, I was discussing this yesterday with a couple of lads from Durham. We've got a squad of players that everybody plays for each other. Everybody gets on well. We've got absolutely no cliques at all in this club. We were criticised actually a couple of years ago by one of the members to say that what's going to happen is you're going to end up with cliques in the club, and we haven't got any whatsoever. We've got a really good set of lads. Everybody gets on well, as I say. We all play together in the leagues, and we all have a bit of banter with each other when we're playing. But the quality of the players is just phenomenal, and to get a place in the team. Well, if you get a place in the team, you're happy you got a place in the team, and it doesn't matter where you're playing either.
I think that's going to be your problem, keeping everybody happy. If they're not getting a game, and why is he playing them? Blah. You've seen it in other clubs. You get a lot of good players together, and it ends up just self-imploding. I mean, you've seen it at Stanley a few years ago. You've seen it at Sunderland a little bit. Yeah. That's probably the thing that you've got to guard against.
Absolutely, and that's for myself. I work with Ian and Phil, who's also on, and Stuart, who we sort of talk all the time about the team, and we've always said this season. Then in my last season in the Denny Cup final, we were 5 players short due to not being able to attend. A couple over in Hong Kong, etc., etc. So there was actually 5 players who potentially would have been in that team who got beat, who didn't play, and then we've added Phil Smithson and Paul Hartley to the party this year. So you're saying there's 7 we've got to now fit into a 16-man team. So it's all very well to have all of these players, but keeping that morale is going to be the hardest thing. But we cannot do any more than basically say, we will do our best to pick the team that's right. I think the biggest bonus from this club is we've got a group of players who've gone sort of full circle. Quite a lot of us started together when we were 10, 11, 12 year old, all went our separate ways, different clubs, different avenues, going jobs, never played again, whatever it was, and then all of a sudden over the last 3 or 4 years, just everybody's come back together, haven't they? And it's like we've all sort of come back as this team that never was back then, but we all got on really well. So it's just like a bunch of mates coming back together and having a reunion, and that's exactly how it's felt over the last.
Good way to describe that, actually.
It's just been tremendous, and I agree with you completely about the Cumbria blueprint, because I've always said their team was built on absolutely 16 top players. Yeah. But you look at that team, and what made that team what it was the second men. And I try to drive this over and over and over. People think as the second position has been this, we'll just chuck the
mark the card. Lovely card.
We'll just chuck the one in there who would just want to try and keep out of the way, and we'll cover it up with a lead in the third. And just give them a game. But the seconds in our team, for me, are the ones that will kill games off, because if they're backing the leads up and you're dominating heads from early doors, then you're laughing. So it's been quite hard, especially some of the younger lads. They don't get it. They want to be playing the glory shots. They want to be playing the big balls. But every single position, like Ian said, in our rink is vital, and that's why I think we're doing what we're doing at the moment. But within the club as well, simple little thing leading on to the next one, which is my little going to be my little forte for every guest that we have on. We do in Shields, which we've promoted quite a way now, and a lot of clubs across the country like it. We've got something called the 7-Up Challenge, which is regardless of games, leagues, whatever it is, if you go and you don't score an 8 and you get a 7, the person whose 8th ball doesn't count goes into the 7-Up club, and they get a can of 7-Up. And I've just put off the back of that, I've decided for every guest that we come on, I'm going to have a little bit of a 7-Up questions, which is 7 questions I'm going to ask Ian now, which are quite off the cuff, so you don't have to really think about them too much, but just give us your answers. So we'll start with the first one, which is favourite green, indoor or outdoor?
Favourite green, indoor.
Can be either. Can be indoor or outdoor.
You're not in the area, my favourite green indoor is Durham.
Durham, yeah, that's fine. What balls do you use?
Drake's Pride Professional.
Does pineapple go on a pizza?
No.
Controversial.
Absolutely not.
Not a vegetarian option.
No.
Oh.
No way.
Best match you've ever played in?
Oh, God. Best match I've ever played in? I've got to say Denny Cup final.
Toughest opponent, either a team or an individual?
Liverpool.
Oh, stop.
Oh,
you're right.
You're right. Money. There's money going over the table.
£20. We agreed more than that.
That's what you've got written down here. So
Fish and chips, Chinese or Indian?
Indian.
Future ambition in the sport?
Absolutely win the Denny Cup this year.
Fantastic.
My first primary ambition.
And that's my 7-up questions.
Can I just say one thing?
Go
One
on.
thing I haven't mentioned.
Go
We've
on.
got what we do is, because we've talked about the players in the squads, but the members of the club really support the team and the squads, the players.
Absolutely.
We've got a Facebook group which has got every member involved in the club can be added to it. We've got most of the members in there, and we post. If we win, we post the results. If we lose, we post the results. Everybody knows what's going on within the club, and the members react to that and get involved with it. And I just think that
Great,
helps
great.
us to keep everybody together in the club.
Yeah.
And they're all interested. We even, I mean, we've got a board for forthcoming events, and we stopped using it for a week. And I got complaints that we weren't telling people when we were playing, when there was national events on.
Which is great, and that is one thing that we've built over the last year, and I did that in my team speech prior to the final last year, didn't I? And I says, this is not just about us as a team anymore, this is about, you know, the future of actually building a club again, because 20 years ago I remember coming into this club and you couldn't move in there on a Saturday night or a Sunday night because it was just jam-packed, and we know times have changed and people do different things, but I do feel that we are starting to build a club again, which is basically people want to come and watch the team. There was a lot of people coming and watching yesterday, which is great. And I try as much as I possibly can. I've always been a sort of quite avid with this. Is I always try my best to thank everybody who turn up, whether it be making the cups of teas, baking sandwiches, supporting the team, the reserves, because they're your bread and butter. You know, people sometimes forget about the fact they want to pick the best team, and the best team's out there doing the job. But at the same time, there is always a time when some of those players aren't available, and you've got to fall back on those people who are supporting the team.
Yeah.
And if you forget about them, it's quite easy to lose them completely.
Yeah.
And you know, whether that be going to another club or whatever. And I think that is one thing we've done really well, to keep that harmony, because we tend not to try and, you know, don't forget about those players, and we don't forget to mention this is just a squad, not just a team. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that.
Everybody's included in this. You know, everybody's important in the club, basically. It doesn't matter who you are. You know, we've got a lot of casual bowlers. They're really important to the club because they're in every day. The greens are full during the day, so they're very important to the club. So
Fantastic.
That's about it, is it?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ian. I really appreciate
no
you coming
Thanks
along
for
our first one.
First guest.
Thank you coming on, mate.
Aye, no problem. Just,
When we've got
edit.
24 million listeners and we are winning awards left, right, and centre, you will always know you were the first one on the show.
Peter Crouch, watch out. Freddie Flintoff, you watch out.
Might be on a Question of Sport one day. Who was on the Wrong Bias first ever podcast?
Yeah.
Never go. Honestly.
Lionel Perez.
Fantastic.
Lionel Perez.
Pleasure.
First.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much, mate.
Thanks very
Cheers,
much,
son. Thank you.
So, right, competition time then. So we will, again, thanks to Alex Marshall Sports. Alex, who is the distributor for Aero Bowls, they have just brought out some new tops, a new range of Aero tartan shirts, one of which is burgundy, one of which is black for the men, and there's a purple one for the women, and basically added on to some designs that were brought out recently, and I did see a lot of people wearing them at the National Championships in Ayr and in Leamington Spa. So we've got a question, and for the answers for this, you can do it one of three ways. You can either place the comment on the Wrong Bias Facebook page. You can either, the only problem with doing that is you're going to give the answer away to everybody else. So I would certainly think about doing it by email, which is wrong.bias@hotmail.com. Or if you're not bothered and you're seeing everybody else comment, there is also our Twitter page, which is @wrongbias1, and that is just the number, not number one as in letters. So the question for the competition is: in 1992, Alex won gold in the men's pairs and fours and the team event at the World Championships. What I want to know is, what was the venue? If you can send us that with your name attached, we will look at all of the answers. Everybody who gets that answer right, we will do a fair draw and we will announce the winner on the next show. Once we announce the winner, we will get the details and we will send you your size in the colour of your choice, and that is courtesy of Alex Marshall Sports. So thank you very much for that.
By the way, them shirts are available in big man sizes, 6XL. Come on!
A little bit tight on me then.
Right, I'll squeeze it to a medium.
As Richie is the guru with regards to the bowls reports, I thought there was an opportunity here which we're going to call Richie's Roundup, and give Richie his little bit of space to give us some updates of the local and national competitions.
Right, cheers Dave, mate. Denny Cup news. The Vipers beat Durham 96-69 and will now take on Hartlepool, who turned over Stanley 75-56. There was a thriller, Gateshead and Darlington, with Gateshead getting home by a single shot, and West Denton beat Houghton by 12, but the less said the better. You know, I've played West Denton twice and I've conceded 64 shots in
You're
2
doing
games.
well, mate, you're doing well.
Unbelievable, mate. The Yetton run alongside the Denny. Locally, again, the Vipers beat West Denton by 36, and they will play Cumbria next, who beat Darlington by 43. There was a little bit of a surprise. Aycliffe beat Hartlepool before, and they will face Durham, who beat Horton. Just for the record, there's been, I don't know whether the alarm bell should be ringing, but there's been 15 walkovers between the Yetton and the Denny. The Liberty was last week as well. Durham played Yorkshire at Durham. An under-strength, probably Yorkshire team. Durham cruised 48 shots. But I think they'll need to be at the best to beat a young Lincolnshire side, possibly. Do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, definitely. We've had a couple of battles with Lincolnshire over the last couple of years. I think it's ones apiece over the last 2 years. So
there will be no repeat of last year's final, as last year's finalist Berkshire went out. They actually got beat by Hampshire by 1. Last year they beat Hampshire by 42, so I don't know what went wrong there.
Yeah, big turnaround.
Yeah. 12 times Liberty winners, mate. Yet we've only got one Middleton. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's been one of the head-scratching situations I wrote about recently, and it's a really tough one. I know we're looking at two completely different ways of bowling. I mean, outdoors and indoors the format's exactly the same, but we all know that the outdoor greens are a lot trickier, and you don't necessarily get the best bowlers performing to the way they can on the outdoor greens who play indoors. But it's a one we've got to get over, and I do feel, and I have felt this for a while, Durham are starting to build something in the Middleton Cup. We've got a lot of the younger lads who actually play within the South Shields team as well are starting to play outdoors, and hopefully we'll start to improve. Whether we ever come anywhere near to matching the indoor Liberty team is a big question. I can't see it ever happening.
No, I think it's just the greens, isn't it, really? The players are more comfortable on a quicker surface.
To be honest with you, I find it's a bit of a culture shock for our lads in Durham. I mean, we found that when we went up to Wigton this year in Cumbria, we played them in the Middleton Cup, and Wigton's greens are pretty much sort of what you would expect to find down at the national finals. They're a lot quicker, they're a lot firmer, flat, and our lads are so used to, because of the primarily the standard in our area, in our county, they're just used to going onto greens and giving it 3 or 4 balls of grain and chucking as hard as they like, and it's the greens aren't particularly brilliant, and I think it's a bit of a culture shock for our lads when we hit some of those greens. So, whilst I'm on that as well, I wanted to just say well done to Louis Rideout and Sophie Tolchard, who have just been out in Australia, or still out there at the moment. They've been playing in what are classes. That is the World Champion of Champions out in Australia. Basically, you've got to win your national title to get there, so you're not just getting there on an invite or anything like that. You've actually proved yourself in your own country. You go out and you compete against all the champions of the other countries, and the two of them have just secured bronze medals, which is a great achievement.
Tremendous.
No easy task. I think they both potentially. I think Sophie hit the New Zealand girl in the semi-final. Don't know her, but hit New Zealand or Australia out there on the Australian greens. You've got a battle before you've even started, because it's just a culture shock.
And I think they won them both, didn't they? Australia won them both.
Australia, yeah, both on tie breaks, yeah. Louis lost to the Australian. I think Louis was really unlucky not to guarantee himself a final berth straight away. I think he lost out in the group stages by a set. He won all of his games bar 1. I think the same as Stuart Hagan, I think, from Scotland. Or Mark Hagan, sorry. Yeah. Mark O'Hagan from Scotland, and lost out on 1 set. They both only lost 1 game. So that's the difference between bronze and guaranteeing yourself a...
And we've had a couple of retirements, mate. Tony Alcock.
Yeah, I read that the other day. That was a big shock.
Chief Bowls Executive at Bowls England, being the figurehead of the sport since I've been playing anyway. He's took over the mantle of David Bryant when I started.
Absolutely. And the one thing about I always laugh about with Tony is you talk to people who know nothing about the sport, and you've got a man in Alex Marshall who's won everything you could possibly want to win in the game recently, and he's the most decorated Scottish Commonwealth athlete of all time. But yet, when you talk to people who don't know about the sport, who's the 2 names that they always say? Oh, is that thing that David Bryant with the pipe smokes, and what is it? Alcock. That's the one. It's just synonymous of how big they were in their era. Yeah. And Tony's obviously continued to work within the sport for a lot of years, and is I think he's chairman of the Crufts.
Yeah.
He's
does a lot of Crufts, yeah.
Yeah. So.
I remember him. I went to watch his Scotland series at Prestwick when I was a kid, and Tony Alcock got the end drink. So all the Scots supporters obviously gathered round both sides of this, And I'll tell you what, if ever you want to see an exhibition of how to handle a crowd, not let them affect it, Tony Alcock was absolutely magnificent, mate.
Yeah.
He never flattered. He just got on. He got pelters, all good-natured banter for the first 10, 12 ends when they were obviously... But I tell you what, mate, it was a pleasure to watch him, and the crowd actually shook his hand and clapped him off at the end.
Yeah.
He was tremendous, mate.
Yeah, and that's why he's got the name that he has, and I said, you still see that in a lot of respects in the role that Tony's got, because he's been at a couple of the major championships that I've been to recently, and he doesn't care. He just does not care what people think about him, what people say. He will basically back his players to the hilt, and it's nice to see. You get full support from Tony when you're playing in these competitions. The Atlantic Championships was an example recently. He was just fully behind all of his England players, and he helped the girls to a gold medal. He was actually looking after them, and it was just, you could just see they were feeding off his experience. So a loss to the sport. Definitely, I'm sure he'd still be involved in some capacity. But
and the other retiree is Karen Murphy, Australia.
Yeah, I've only met Karen on a couple of occasions. I played against her when I was out playing in a test series in Australia. We played, I can't remember what it was, but it's a televised event out there, and played against her. She is just phenomenal, what she's achieved in the sport for women, and she's just got something about her that's just an aura. And in Australia, she is seen as like, a major sporting personality, and you could go out on the street and you would ask anybody about any English woman bowler in this country, or Scottish or Welsh. Nobody wouldn't. I would be gobsmacked if anybody could name one.
Yeah.
But you would go out in Australia and you'd mention Karen Murphy out in the streets, and it's like they would know exactly what she's all about.
Yeah.
And that's the big step that Australia have taken over the years.
Well, I think that's it for the first show, mate. That's been a pleasure. Enjoyed it.
Well, I hope, like I say, we hope everybody else is, and we hope going forward that people do want to get involved. This is an opportunity to give your club a little bit of a shout out, and basically if there's anything you want to promote, it could be open days, it could be competitions, whatever it is, please feel free to contact us, because, for all this is all about getting balls out there. There's an opportunity there for people to be able to, make people aware of what you've got going on, and that for me is massively needed in this sport. We want to try and push it forward, and we want to try and help clubs as much as possible. And if there's any individuals out there who see themselves as a potential guest for whatever reason, please also drop us an email on the email we will provide, and any pictures. And for the tartan tops, you will see pictures on our Facebook page and our Twitter page, so you will see what they're like. Like I say, I've really enjoyed it. Hopefully people will out there as well. No doubt it will get a lot easier for us, and we will add different things as we go along as well. Thank you for listening, and hope you've enjoyed the show.
This has been a Dodgy production.